And now the weather outlook from Ian McCaskill.
Hello, there'll be some rain over the weekend as this front here lurches rather drunkenly southwards across the country during Saturday and Sunday. There'll be a lot of dry weather as well. And tomorrow in particular, I think most places dry with this ridge of high pressure and with a fair bit of mild sunshine about as well. Now, in the forecast sequence, watch three things. Watch this front fizzle out and weaken, watch this system come in towards northwest Britain, and watch these isobars pack down against the country, bringing in quite strong winds into northwestern areas. We'll run through the next 24 hours, that front moving away and weakening, the isobars gradually coming down into northwestern Britain, and by the end of tomorrow, that rain getting down just about as far as the Glasgow and Edinburgh areas, not quite as far south as Belfast. The rest of the country, as you can see by then, dry, with still fairly light winds in the south. And then putting a bit of detail on that, well, that's the position now. A lot of clouds still over central and eastern parts of England, a few patches of mist or even fog in places. Quite a bit of fog will form, I think, over Wales, western England and northern England too, some fairly dense patches by the morning. Misty too for a time at least in southern Scotland and Northern Ireland, but eventually wind and cloud getting in there and some rain too getting into the far northwest of Scotland. A fairly mild night in the northwest, therefore there's going to be a bit of a wind as you can see, but in the south and in central parts of the country, a touch of frost, 0 Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit. Starting off pretty dull tomorrow in the central and eastern parts of England, but this brighter weather over most of Britain, gradually, I think, working its way southeastwards. But eventually, too, that rain in the far north of Scotland, getting down into central parts of Scotland and into parts, too, of Northern Ireland by the end of the day. But everywhere, I think, a mild day, 12 or 13 Celsius, 54 to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Now let's try to put a bit of detail on the weekend's weather now. There we are for Saturday. Mild, very mild indeed in parts of the south, 13 Celsius, 55 Fahrenheit. Cloudier and cooler in the north with some rain in places and pretty breezy up there too. And then on Sunday, all swapping round, becoming colder everywhere. The cloud moving down into southern parts of Britain with a little bit of rain in places, but becoming brighter, although much cooler in the far north. Then let's have a look at a little bit farther afield for the weekend's weather over Britain. Most of the sea crossings, slight or moderate, nothing much to worry about in the way of wind anywhere, but it's the same old story. The farther south you go, the sunnier and the warmer it becomes. Finally, which was the warmest place in Britain today? Well, Plymouth did share with the Isles of Scilly the distinction of being the warmest place with 12 Celsius, 54 degrees Fahrenheit. The Isles of Scilly were also the sunniest place with 9.8 hours, and strangely enough, also the wettest place over the last 24 hours. But most of that rain was last night. Good night to you.
Tomorrow evening on Radio 3, Michael Charlton can be heard in the first of 3 conversations with top UN officials, discussing the often disappointing history of the United Nations. In this first programme, Brian Urquhart reflects on the developments of its peacekeeping powers. A Truce to Terror, tomorrow evening at 9:30 on Radio 3. Well, looking at BBC2's programmes tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock, Micro Live investigates new applications for the laser disc, tells of the problems and pleasures involved in building a robot that plays table tennis, and looks at the difficult job of live subtitling. Phil Silvers is Sergeant Bilko at 6:50, and then at 7:15 we go to the Oxford Road studios, where Red Guitars is the band to watch. There's live music from The Alarm, and Kurt Smith of Tears for Fears takes ORS cameras out to his hometown of Bath. At 8:05, Nature includes a report from Brazil on an attempt to reintroduce into the wild captive-bred golden lion tamarins. Gardener's World at 8:35 comes from Barnsdale, where Jeff Hamilton plans a wide range of vegetables for this year, and Tony Hender recommends new and well-tried hardy and half-hardy annuals. At 9 o'clock, in Just Another Day, John Pittman discovers the many faces of Soho, London's crooked square mile. That's followed at 9:30 by the last programme in the series The New Pacific, which looks at inventiveness, Japanese style, the technology of the information revolution, and Japan's attempts to be first with the celebrated but elusive 5th-generation computer. Newsnight is at 10:30, followed by the weather, and then at 11:20 we begin a season of Marcel Carné's most acclaimed films, with his atmospheric thriller Le Quai des Brumes. Well, back to tonight now, and in 5 minutes we have a couple of programmes for the Open University. But before that, let's take a look ahead to daytime programmes on Saturday and Sunday in Weekend Outlook.
This is the so-called Shouting Horseman, one of the most celebrated of all Renaissance bronze statuettes, made in Padua by Andrea Riccio, about 1505. It normally lives in a showcase in the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. But it's on your screen this weekend as the subject of a fascinating Open University programme on Renaissance art. And from the bronze horses of the Renaissance to a very 20th century car. Pete Lewis of the Open University went to Detroit to find out about this one. It's made of plastic.
Like most new cars today, its fenders are soft polyurethane plastic for impact resistance. The wing is plastic too. And inside, this hood is sheet molding compound. It's glass fiber reinforced polyester. Unlike all other American cars, all the body panels are plastic too. They're all attached to a structural steel space frame. We've come to Pontiac to see why they made this quantum jump in technology and exactly how they achieved it.
But man does not live by plastic cars alone. The manufacture of your daily bread is the focus of interest in another Open University programme you can see this weekend.
Well over 1 million loaves and rolls come off this bread production line in Stevenage every week. And over 3,000 shops and supermarkets in a 50-mile radius are supplied by this bakery every day. Most of Britain's bread is produced in big bakeries such as this one. 500 people work in the Stevenage bakery, producing bread right round the clock.
Bread, however it's made, is a miracle. And from everyday miracles to exotic ones. It's village India.
My nephew has been rather ill recently. Medicines don't seem to have worked for him. We wondered what the problem could be. Then we thought of calling in an Ojha. It's possible that someone has put the evil eye on him. Perhaps he's under the influence of a witch from the garden or a low-caste bhoot. If it's a low-caste bhoot, then the Brahmin Ojha can't deal with it. Only a low-caste Ojha can dissuade that bhoot.
Coping with pain in an Indian village. And coping with stress, the play way.
Cabbage and
cauliflower. Anyone's snack. Nobody came out with cauliflower.
Right. Okay, celery, peas, cabbage, broccoli.
Play is a form of learning. It helps people express themselves.
Broccoli, peas, celery.
Play requires that people interact.
Peas, tomatoes,
And it reduces tension, which in its turn makes it easier for interactions to take place.
Mixed veg. These stress workshops are supposed to improve your health.
Games increase the sense of togetherness of a group. This isn't a trivial aim. The group has to stay together to work together.
Learning in groups, just one of more than 20 hours of programmes from the Open University on your screens this weekend. Look in, you'll be welcome.
And this is the Open University, with a programme for the second level Introduction to Engineering Materials course. The 4 dice game has already served to introduce some basic concepts of probability. But what if the dice are loaded? Can the laws of physics still prevail? With serious intent, here's a likely story.
It was a cold winter's night when the phone rang to send me upstate.